The New Orleans Saints are in that weird space in the NFL where a team knows it's rebuilding, but doesn't want to fully admit it. They're trying to compete, trying to stay respectable, but it's obvious this is a franchise in transition. The days of Drew Brees and Sean Payton are long gone, and now it's about figuring out what comes next. But the NFL doesn't give you time to breathe. Every week is a test, and if the Saints' performance against Seattle was any indication, this team might be in for a long season. The start of the year wasn't all doom and gloom. Weeks 1 and 2, the Saints looked feisty. They didn't dominate, but they fought. They competed. They pushed the Cardinals and the 49ers right to the wire. That might not sound like much, but for a team in their current state, that's progress. That's what you want to see from a young squad under a new head coach trying to install a new identity. But then came week 3, and it was ugly. Seattle punched them in the mouth early, and the Saints never recovered. Down 21-0 just 6 minutes into the game. Completely unprepared. Flat. Lost. And that's the kind of performance that gets people fired in the NFL, because even bad teams can't afford to look that bad. This weekend, they'll head to Buffalo to face one of the AFC's toughest teams. And let's be real, nobody expects New Orleans to come out of there with a win. But that's not even the point. What fans want to see now is effort, fight, some sign that this team isn't going to let last week define their season. Because if the Saints come out and look like they did in Seattle, it won't matter how new the coach is or how many rookies are starting. That kind of performance gets coaches run out of town. The quarterback situation is one of the clearest indicators that this team is in a transitional phase. Right now, it's Spencer Rattler running the show, and while he's done a decent job statistically, completing about 67% of his passes, over 200 yards per game for touchdowns, just 1 pick, he's clearly being coached to play it safe. This is not a high-octane offense. This is a controlled dink and dunk, avoid mistakes at all costs kind of offense. You're not going to see Rattler taking many shots downfield. Instead, he's getting the ball out quick, making simple reads, and hoping the rest of the team can carry some of the load. It's a smart way to bring along a rookie quarterback. But it's also frustrating to watch. This offense feels capped. The ceiling is low. They're not explosive. They're not threatening. Everything feels like it has to be a 12-play drive to even have a chance at scoring, and more often than not, those drives stall before the end zone. You look at their receivers, guys like Chris Olave. He had 10 catches last week, but only 57 yards. That's less than 6 yards per reception. Those are numbers you expect from a pass-catching running back, not a dynamic receiver like Olave. But that's just how this offense is operating right now. And it's not because Olave can't stretch the field. He absolutely can. But the Saints aren't even trying to push the ball deep. Some of that is on the play caller, some of it is on the offensive line, and some of it is just where Rattler is at in his development. The frustrating part is that they've got another speedster in Rashid Shaheed, a legit deep threat. But again, we're not seeing him used that way. Whether it's protection issues, conservative play calling, or just trying to keep Rattler from getting killed, the deep game is practically non-existent. What's even more confusing is that despite all the short throws, you're not seeing a lot of yards after the catch either. This isn't a situation where receivers are catching quick passes and then breaking free. No, it's catch the ball, get tackled immediately. It's a grind. Every yard feels hard-earned. And that's a problem in today's NFL, where so many teams are built to explode in 2 or 3 plays. The Saints don't have that right now. Alvin Kamara is still a solid piece of the puzzle, but he's not the Alvin Kamara of old. At 30 years old, he's not going to carry the entire offense on his back. His best trait is still that balance. He's slippery in space, hard to bring down, and can still make linebackers look silly in the open field. But the Saints have struggled to get him involved in the passing game the way they used to during the Brees era. The screen game is almost non-existent, and wheel routes or design mismatches out of the backfield just aren't there. Defensively, things aren't much better. Cam Jordan is still out there grinding, but at 35, he's clearly not the same disruptive force he once was. The team brought in Chase Young with hopes that he could juice the pass rush, but he hasn't been healthy. Without him, Jordan is having to carry a heavier load than he should at this stage of his career. And in this new 3-4 defensive scheme, that's even more of a challenge. Jordan isn't the prototype for an outside linebacker in this look, and you can see the strain. He's giving everything he's got, but the system doesn't seem tailored to maximize what he still does well. The back end of the defense is young and inexperienced. Kool-Aid McKinstry is a promising corner, but he's still raw, and he's being asked to do a lot. Julian Blackmon went down with an injury in Week 1, and now a rookie safety is starting in his place. That's a dangerous mix, especially when your front seven isn't generating consistent pressure. Asking young defensive backs to hold coverage for 4, 5, 6 seconds is asking for trouble. And that's exactly what's happening. The Saints have been playing a lot of soft zone coverage, and the results have been what you'd expect. Wide open spaces, easy completions, and long drives that suck the energy out of the defense. Special teams? Even worse. That Seattle game was a meltdown in every phase. A 95-yard punt return, a blocked punt, long kickoff returns allowed. Just complete breakdowns. And in the NFL, where games are often decided by a few plays, those kinds of mistakes are killers. You can't survive them, especially not when your offense is struggling to score and your defense is leaking oil. It's demoralizing. Imagine you finally force a punt, get your defense off the field, and then boom, your special teams gives up a touchdown. That's the kind of thing that rips the heart out of a team. That's why this game in Buffalo matters. Not because anyone thinks the Saints will pull off the upset, but because it's a test of the coaching staff. Are these guys capable of steadying the ship after a disaster? Can they get this team back on track mentally and emotionally after getting embarrassed on national TV? This is the part of the job that fans don't always see. It's not just about calling plays or drawing up schemes. It's about culture. It's about leadership. When your team gets knocked flat, can you get the back up? So far, the messaging from the Saints head coach Kellen Moore has been consistent. He's not brushing it off. He's not telling the team to bury the tape. He wants them to sit with it, learn from it, and be better because of it. That's the right approach for a young, rebuilding team. You don't get to just ignore games like that. You study them. You break down the mistakes. And most importantly, you don't let it happen again. One meltdown? Okay, that happens in the NFL. But if it turns into 2, 3, 4 weeks of the same, that's a pattern, and that's how you lose a locker room. So now it's about how the Saints respond. Nobody's expecting miracles. But if they go into Buffalo and compete, if they make the Bills sweat a little, keep it close, show fight, then the narrative shifts. Then you can say Week 3 was the low point, and they bounce back. But if it's another blowout, if they fall behind early and look lifeless again, then it's not just about rebuilding anymore. It becomes about survival. For the staff, for the quarterback, for everyone involved. While much of the conversation around the Saints revolves around their offense and how it's struggling to generate explosive plays, there's another element that can't be ignored, and that's the coaching philosophy. Kellen Moore was brought in with a reputation. He was the young, creative mind who'd worked with a Super Bowl-winning staff. There was some buzz when he got the job, but it wasn't overwhelming. Saints fans, if anything, were cautiously optimistic. But in New Orleans, Moore wasn't walking into a situation with elite talent. This wasn't Detroit with a loaded roster and a quarterback of the future. This was a franchise in the middle of a soft reboot, filled with questions at quarterback, limited cap flexibility, and aging stars still holding down key roles. In many ways, Moore's arrival felt like damage control. The fan base had grown tired of Dennis Allen, whom many felt should have been let go after just one season. So anyone new felt like a step forward, even if Moore wasn't the splash hire. And to his credit, the early signs were encouraging. The Saints were competitive in the first 2 weeks. They battled, they looked organized, and the team didn't look lost. But Week 3 shattered all of that momentum. It wasn't just that they got beat. It was how it happened. And the thing is, when you're trying to establish a culture and build belief, those kinds of games can undo everything you worked for. One of the biggest concerns with this team right now is the inconsistency. It's not unusual for young rosters to have ups and downs, but the extreme nature of the swings is troubling. You go from almost knocking off the 49ers to getting blown out in Seattle. That's not just about talent. That's about preparation. That's about leadership. That's about mindset. And that's where the pressure falls on Moore and his staff. Because you can't afford to have your team show up unprepared. especially not against a team like the Bills, who will expose every single weakness and do it fast. Buffalo has its own identity. They're not perfect, and there have been moments of vulnerability, but this is still one of the top-tier franchises in the league. Josh Allen might frustrate fans with the occasional wild throw, but he's an elite quarterback who can carry a team when it matters. And even when the Bills' offense is having an off day, they can still score 30 points with ease. They're deep, well-coached, and physical, especially at home. This game is going to be a test for the Saints in every way, mentally and physically. And here's the thing. The Bills aren't even playing their best football right now. Their deep passing game has been largely absent. The offense has leaned heavily on short throws and timing-based routes. Against Miami, Josh Allen's average depth of target was shockingly low. He wasn't pushing the ball down the field the way we've seen in years past. But they're still scoring points. They're still finding ways to win. That's what good teams do. They adjust, they evolve, and they punish teams that make mistakes. The Saints, unfortunately, have made far too many. Defensively, the Bills offer a mix of physicality and discipline. They're not blitz-heavy, but they get pressure. They rotate well. They force you to earn every yard. For Spencer Rattler, this is going to be a huge test. He hasn't faced a defense quite like this yet. The Cardinals and 49ers gave him trouble, but Buffalo brings a different kind of energy, especially in Orchard Park. The noise, the weather, the fans, the speed of the defense, it's all going to be turned up a notch. But if Rattler can stay calm, manage the game, and avoid big mistakes, that's a step in the right direction. Nobody expects him to throw for 400 yards. That's not the game plan. What Saints fans want to see is composure, pocket awareness, decision-making. If he can avoid the back-breaking turnover, extend a few drives, maybe even hit a deep shot or two, then that's something you can build on. That's what this season is about. Finding the small wins. Finding out if Rattler is a long-term solution or just a placeholder. Of course, that also depends on the pieces around him. The offensive line has been patchwork at best. Injuries, youth, and inexperience have left Rattler under constant pressure. The left tackle is a rookie. The right guard is a backup, and it shows. The Saints have dealt with an alarming number of false starts and procedural penalties. That's what happens when you're starting guys who haven't been in these situations before. And it puts even more pressure on the quarterback to be perfect. Every drive starts behind the chains. Every third down feels impossible. And if the play calling doesn't get more creative, it's hard to imagine that changing anytime soon. Before we dive back in, make sure to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Your support helps us keep delivering the latest Buffalo Bills updates straight to your screen. And hey, don't hold back. Let us know your thoughts on today's news down in the comments. Whispers are swirling around the NFL as the Buffalo Bills find themselves at the center of what could be the most explosive locker room drama of the season. Coach Sean McDermott, usually known for his composed and strategic demeanor, reportedly dropped a bombshell in recent interviews, sending shockwaves through the Bills fan base. "He's not playing with me anymore," McDermott allegedly stated about an unnamed player. The cryptic remark has sparked an immediate frenzy of speculation among analysts, insiders, and social media followers, all eager to decode which member of the roster has fallen out of favor with the head coach. Sources close to the team suggest that tension has been mounting behind the scenes for weeks, fueled by disagreements over playing time, locker room dynamics, and perhaps even clashing visions for the team's strategy on the field. The phrase, "not playing with me," has left everyone guessing. Is this a permanent banishment, a stern warning, or merely a provocative comment meant to light a fire under the squad? Rumors are already naming multiple candidates, from established starters whose recent performances have been scrutinized, to younger players showing flashes of talent but struggling to fit the team's discipline-oriented culture. Insiders note that McDermott has never been one to mince words when it comes to accountability, and this statement could signal a pivotal moment for the Bills season. If the player in question is indeed sidelined or traded, it could trigger a domino effect impacting the team's offensive and defensive schemes. Fans have flooded social media with questions, theories, and outright speculation, with hashtags trending around potential McDermott fallout and Bills locker room drama. Analysts are pointing out that the timing is critical. The team is approaching a crucial stretch of games where cohesion and trust are paramount, and any discord could derail playoff aspirations. While the identity of the player remains a mystery, the message from McDermott is unmistakable. This is a man who values team harmony above all else, and anyone unwilling to align with his vision may find themselves on the outside looking in. The coming days are expected to be filled with more leaks, rumors, and possibly even an official statement from the organization. But for now, the air around Highmark Stadium is thick with tension. One thing is clear. The Bills are not just battling opponents on the field. They may be confronting one of the biggest internal dramas in recent memory, and Sean McDermott's declaration could redefine the team's identity moving forward. That's a wrap for now. If you enjoyed the video and want to stay on top of all things Buffalo Bills, make sure to subscribe and hit that like button. We'd love to hear what you think in the comments. See you in the next update.